Are you always looking through home magazines, envious of the rooms that you see on the pages? Well, you too can live in your favorite designs with easy tips and expert help. Joining us now with more is Susan Waxman from Carriger Road Interior Design. Susan, thanks so much for joining us here on Live in the Bay.
Thanks for having me.
Let's talk a little bit about your interior design company. How did you get started and what are you guys all about?
Well, Carriger Road Interior Design is a full-service design firm located in Sonoma. However, I got started here in the Bay Area working at the San Francisco Design Center, and that really opened me up to the world of design, and I just fell in love with it.
So you fell in love with it and quickly decided that this is something you had to pursue full-time, right?
Exactly.
What were some of the challenges of creating your own business?
I think just determining what market you wanted to appeal to and then what services you want to offer. There are so many opportunities in design if you want to focus on residential or commercial, and if you want to sub out or take on a lot of the services yourself. So it's really determining on your market and what areas you want to focus on.
Well, let's dig into that a little bit. What is the difference between residential and some of the other options out there when it comes to interior design?
Well, residential really is the home, and the other primary market is commercial, so that would be your workplace. Within the commercial realm, it could be anything from hospitality, education, healthcare, legal, and so there are a lot of different avenues to pursue. That said, whether it's your home or your business, the basic design principles apply.
Okay, so same basic principles apply to either or, but it's obviously a different process.
It is. It is.
Well, I heard that you have a couple of tips for us, expert tips for our viewers on how we can up our interior design game. And so let's first get into some of the room layouts. Any tips that you have for us when it comes to room layouts and how to really amp up that design?
Yes, so a lot of clients know what they like, and in the Bay Area we're all exposed to beauty, and so most of the clients know what they like and have a sophisticated eye, but they get a little caught up when designing their own home and they don't really know where to start. And so the process I recommend to them is first you determine the normal traffic path. So there's a logical flow in any room when you go from one room to the next. And so you can use graph paper or you can use blue painter's tape and you can tape the floor, but you want to determine first and foremost the traffic path. Usually we allow about 3 feet, so you lay that out, and then once you've done that, you will, in a sense, create zones. The zones are your opportunities to lay out the furniture and focus on focal points. And every room has something or a way it could be amped up. So it could be a fireplace or a view or something that you call a wow moment. So once you've laid out the traffic paths and determined your zones, you determine areas that you want the visitor to really focus on and have those pause moments. After that, I always recommend that people look up and out. So looking up is the ceiling. It's a missed opportunity, and so we call the ceiling, you've probably heard the term, the fourth wall. But there are a lot of ways to maximize the ceiling, whether it be beams or wallpaper, paint, lighting, so there's ways to really draw the eye up. And then finally I have them look out. Don't forget about the view. In design, we call the view expanded or borrowed landscape. So when you're looking out a window, that experience is part of the room itself.
And when going through all of these tips for a beginner out there who may be doing this on their own, which one out of those 4 do you think is the most important to address first?
I think the traffic path. Because,
traffic path?
Right. A lot of mistakes people make, they fall in love with the sofa, for example, and they bring it home and it's like, oops, it's too big, it doesn't fit the room. So determining the traffic path, if you care about getting from one room to the next, is probably the first most important step.
Perfect. Now, what about specifically bathroom layouts when it comes to the bathroom and tips on that?
Right. So with couples, I find that most people like their own space, and so it's important that you know the client's routines in the morning, and giving people their own personal space, I think, in the bathroom is really important, and so I would probably focus on that. Also, we live in Sonoma, and a lot of my clients live in the wine country, and so people today are looking for that spa experience, and so if you can think of your favorite spa or hotel and just try and mimic that, I think you'll probably hit the nail on the head.
Well, speaking about a spa experience, the first thing that comes to mind is closet space, right? So how can we amp up the closet to make it feel a little bit more like home?
Great question. So step one is pull everything out of your closet. And so you want to look at the inventory you have. And then there are so many great books out there about knowing how to get rid of things and making the most of what you have. So once you've taken the inventory out and decided what you're going to keep, you want to group like items. And so you want to put all your pants in one pile and all of your jackets. And then once you determine the like items, double hanging is probably one of the underused techniques, and so you can get maximization of the space, and so double hanging is really recommended. Within those areas of clothing, I tend to like to categorize by color. And then in terms of personalizing it, I love fragrance. There's some great companies. Agraria is a San Francisco company that has diffusers and wonderful lemon candles, and so I like to recommend that you create fragrance to the space, personalize it with family photos, and you should be good to go.
I like that too, that little tip of the scent in the closet, because you always want your shoes, your clothes to smell really good, right?
Exactly.
And it's so funny too, because sitting here listening to you talk, it sounds like you not only double as an interior designer, but organization. That is so important when it comes to the closet.
It is, and there's some great companies. I work a lot with California Closets, and they have a beautiful showroom near the Design Center here in San Francisco. When you have an organized space, whether it's a closet or a kitchen or a pantry, what you're really creating is more time for yourself. It's more time with your family, more time at the kitchen table, and so who doesn't want more time?
Exactly, or you can always get a little bit more time by staying organized in an office space. Now, do you have some tips for us on how to create a great office space?
I do. So I would say first and foremost, in the home setting, you want to determine a space that is private or that you can visually cut off at the end of the day, because it's important, I think, to separate the home space with, your workspace.
Oh, yes, 100%.
Not have it bleed in.
Yeah.
Step one, I really think it's important to have a solid wall behind you. In feng shui design, we call that the black mountain. It gives a sense of permanence, and it really gives an overall sense of calm. So the opposite would be if your desk is out in a hallway and people are walking behind you, it's really hard to be effective at design and to be calm. So if you can have a bookcase or something solid behind you. And then any office, whether it's at home or downtown, there are three components: workspace, storage, and display. And so how much real estate you give each of those components depends on what you do for a living and how you want to work. But always think of those three areas, and again, personalize it. I like to have a little fountain and then fresh flowers, and of course the view doesn't hurt.
Well, before I let you go, Susan, I have to ask one final tip for all of our beginners out there who are just trying to step up their interior design game.
I would say don't be afraid. Don't be afraid with color, scale. You can't make a mistake, and it's always a learning process.
Well, thank you so much for joining us here on Live in the Bay and giving us some tips to step up our game. I'm definitely going to use some of these.
Thanks, Olivia.
To connect with Susan for help in your home, head to carrigerrd.com.